Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. After I hope you had a chance to watch all of our lovely shorts, our QT BIPOC shorts. We had a great lineup for you, and we have an even greater in-person lineup for you. Um, Naya Awasu is and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Naya Awasu.
Owusu.
Owusu is my amazing co-host, so you don't have to just have my voice. And then we have Louise Sautron coming all the way from France to join us live. And they are the director, writer, and producer of A Conversation, one of the shorts you had the honor of seeing, and I say honor because it was so brilliant. We have Melina Cohen Bramwell and Malix. Malix, we don't have a last name, so you're just like Cher. You're Malix. That's the way you roll. Malix of the bearded ones. And I have beard envy right now. That's some lusciousness stuff. That's some, like, I'm sorry, Logan, you don't measure up. That's some stuff you want to like. Don't even try, boy. No. Malix, two writers from the amazing, wonderful series Lego Harry Potter and the Transgender Witch parody. Oh, look at the timing! What, girl?
I made it!
You made it! You made it right on time. Your Donato time is the best time. And where's your happy this morning?
Not much of a diva. I apologize.
Oh, you can diva it up. The beautiful one just walked in.
Pre-funk Mother's Day celebration for the anti-moms in our lives. And just so happens I fit in that category. An anti-mom. And so we're here celebrating. Yes, me too.
So Donato, your timing is amazing. I'm just making introductions and then about to introduce Logan. So Donato Fatwesi, am I pronouncing that correctly? Fatwesi. Okay. Welcome. And last but definitely not least, just a little more on the white side than the rest of us.
I don't know if that stands for the
I had to, it was just screaming right in front of us, so I just had to say it. But, I think other people saw it too. That you're not a brown person. That's true. Nobody's holding it against you, man. I know. No, it's like.
That's a lot. That's a lot to open with. Do we want an audience or not?
I love in the chat. Mocha pops up with, he's a light-skinned white person. Ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, we're rolling like that tonight. It's
a vampire thing.
Yeah, right? Like, thank goodness for beard, and it gives you some demarcation so we can see you. And let me just take note, Louise, Félicitations, I don't even know how you're awake. Because in France it is 6 minutes past 4 in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. What?
It's 4 a.m. in France.
I know. I also want to we're fooling around and warming up, and I'm so glad to see all of you. But I do need to take this moment, and I'm happy to take this moment to thank all of our sponsors who supported all of your work and who continue to support $3 Bill Cinema and Translations. Without our sponsors, we could not bring you this incredible work. So a moment of sober thanks and celebration. And I also want to take a moment to say that we are currently on a Coast Salish and Duwamish land. And we honor those people alive and ancestors without whom we could not do this work as well. Okay, y'all, we about to do it. You ready? You ready though? Because we just saw some brilliant
Cooper, we
films.
stay ready so we don't need to get ready.
What? See, that's why, Donato.
That?
That's why. That's why. You know what? So I'm gonna begin with you. Ready? Okay. How was it, Donato, to play Quincy? Quincy is the star of your. So let's give a little background. Tell me, Donato. Tell me about your take on what you think is Harry Potter and the Transgender Witch is, and then how was it to play Quincy in that context?
You know what, Cooper? I don't even know if I could consider myself the star. Right? First and foremost, there are so many narratives that are happening across this amazing project. I resonate so deeply with Quincy for being just openly trans and vocal and sure about who she is when she enters any space. Mm-hmm. That is my experience as a trans person. Mm-hmm. For many other people, they might resonate with the other folks in the magical queers, right? Who have never been so vocally or loud about their presence, but have always existed, right? As a trans woman, that narrative strikes deeply for me because in every educational space that I've entered, and there have been few, because I've been the new kid at many different schools, I've had to reintroduce myself. And in reintroducing myself, it has always been like, yes, I exist. But a lot of people have never understood that my parents have always backed me. So for them, they've always felt, the administration, the institution, whatever you want to call it, has always felt that, oh, you're doing something wrong. We're going to call a parent and you're going to get in trouble. And for me, it was like, call my parent. Call my parent. You're going to get in trouble. My very first day of high school, in American Samoa, where I grew up, we have uniforms. Mm-hmm. And on one day of every week, it's Wednesday, it's Mufti Wednesday. Mufti sounds like an antiquated term for just wear whatever the hell you want.
Okay.
Which is just like dress out. My very first Mufti Wednesday was a very beautiful, demure black blouse with pink gauchos. Who can hate gauchos? When you walk in gauchos, you mean business.
That's for real though.
My freshman year, my first Wednesday, Mufti Wednesday, I meant business.
Okay, but tell us about the shoes though.
2 inches heels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I meant business with my little purse, pink gauchos, black blouse. The counselor saw me. She didn't even know she was my counselor yet. And she was like, step into my office. She said, okay, what's going on? You're dressed out of dress code. How am I dressed out of dress code? My pants are between my knee and my ankle. Like, these are gauchos. These are business pants. You can't come for gauchos. My blouse was here to my forearm, completely covered. It's just the feminine aspect of how I chose to arrive. She felt she needed to call my parent. And she called my parent. And my mom gladly picked up the phone and was like, what's the problem? Oh, your child is here wearing women's clothes. Okay, I'll be right there. My mom came to school, spoke to the principal. What's the problem? My child is professionally dressed. What's the issue? And the principal took my side. The counselor, who didn't even know was my counselor yet, felt so appalled, felt attacked, that she had to question the validity of how I chose to appear at school and wanted to attack that. And I was blessed because I had a parent that was willing to stand by my representation of who I am,
Mm.
and nobody could shake that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Often in my experiences of growing up, parents
Mm-hmm.
are not supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that conversation often turns into something negative,
Mm-hmm.
that you're shameful.
Mm-hmm.
You tricked me.
Mm-hmm.
You left home as appearing as such, and you're arriving at school as something other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were surprised by my parents' reaction to that very thing,
Mm-hmm.
that they had to rethink their approach of how they're going to deal with me. And the
Yes.
conversation lasted
Yes.
4 years of my high school.
That's
Yes.
yes.
It got
Yes.
so bad. It got so bad to the fact that they wouldn't even let me run for student body president because they thought, you're too vocal. You're troublesome. You're going to challenge the institution. And so we can't give you that voice. I think for many trans women who have to lead with their authentic selves,
Mm-hmm.
often opens them up to so much speculation, attack, and vilification that we've even seen in Kyler O'Neill's Satan Tears. That's
Mm-hmm.
what she talks about, right?
Yep.
Is not only is that her artistry is just so profound, and she has a talent to deliver that type of medium,
Mm-hmm.
but just being that vocal of who she is opens her up to the speculation, the vilification of trans women.
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
character, Quincy Blueberger, who is just so young and bright-eyed, enters a space of like thousands of years of this is the thing. She's like, no, I am Quincy. I am she. I'm a witch.
Right.
And the
Right.
institution tries to battle her with it.
Right. Right. So much. You just said so much. You just said so much. And Naya, can you take it some direction? I need to pause. I need to. I need to.
I'm sorry, I say a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing about doing these live shows. We have an idea of how it's going to go, and then we get
and you're
like you, who's like, you went right. You're like, oh, we're live. We're going.
We're going.
Yeah. So
when you said you stay ready, you stay ready.
Yeah. Okay. So like you had this voice. You continue to have this voice. How do how does this voice show up for you now? Like, I know you're, Quincy Blueberger in this Logan or Lego Harry Potter parody, but how do you continue to get that voice out and say, show people I am here?
I often joke with Logan about like Quincy's doing all these other things, right? So outside of voice recording, telling the story, which is necessary to reach many different audiences, is that Quincy, as me, my personal self, is doing all of these other things. And so we've recently accomplished a major feat. SB 5313 helped to close the legal loophole that has allowed insurance companies from denying necessary trans healthcare.
Yeah.
And so Crosscut recently reported on a number of folks that have been instrumental in guiding that bill through and is now on the governor's desk. I want to give a major shout out to Dana Savage, Ari Robbins, Catherine West, Manny Mooney, Venus Aoki, and countless others that have testified for this bill that is now going to close that loophole in the state of Washington.
Yes.
There's so much work that needs to be done. And even Louise had mentioned earlier about some of the limitations of getting access to HRT in France. And so this is just the start. We want to inspire others to pick up that mantle and carry it through wherever you're from. We hope that this state level change can inspire some federal level protections.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, and that's what they celebrate. So Quincy is doing magic way beyond the Lego Harry Potter and Transgender Witch Project, but at its core, Lego Harry Potter, Lego Harry Potter, and the Transgender Witch is helping to change minds at its most basic level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Folks can't imagine the nuances of a trans experience without being introduced to it from its most basic core. And sometimes that means with school.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an ambitious project. I'm gonna aim this question to our two writers because we haven't managed to hear from you. And Logan, we're not leaving you out at all. Like, we heard from you this morning, and like, we're gonna let the rest of you, the people you brought together, shine a bit. So Malix and Melina, this was such an ambitious project. One, I don't even know if you're in Washington. Like, I don't know where you're located because we were informed this morning that there are people located all over the US. So this is like a national project. And then my question to you, though, is what motivated you guys um, to undertake such an ambitious project when, in fact, this was the first time at animation and the first time that any of you were doing this kind of work?
Well, I've got to say, from my end, it's not terribly ambitious. Most of the work is going on in probably the room that Logan is in right now. And so for me, I think I was given this pitch and it was compelling, and I could sit down and write a script, and we're all in quarantine and we all need stuff to do to, something to latch onto in this time. And the stuff with J.K. Rowling happened, and it was like, yeah, let's talk about that. I think that's, it was pretty motivating to, like, this is the time to, like, address this in this particular medium. And this is what we had available. We can't get together in person. We can't make a show, like a live show about it. So, Malix, do you have a different take?
Yeah, basically a lot of it I think was similar to what you're saying, like yesteryear. Last year when J.K. Rowling was expressing herself. I think a lot of folks that grew up on Harry Potter were just sort of like, it was a really disillusioning experience. And I think, I don't know about you, Melina, but like when I was a kid, I was a geek, and I definitely wrote like Harry Potter fanfic and stuff like that. So it's this sort of thing where like the Harry Potter world for me isn't just like the product that J.K. Rowling kind of owns, but that has kind of become this almost like community space or cultural space that we like exist in with each other. And I think this project was just like, is tremendously important to like to, as everyone's saying, like, we exist, and like we're gonna be there, we're gonna be here or whatever, and like that includes like magical worlds that feel very fanciful and queer, and maybe actually need to have some of that, the people there existing. So
I loved that the name of that group, the Magical Queers. Who came up with that?
I feel like that's a Logan and Kate, isn't it? Yeah, we're all pointing. We don't know if we're pointing at the right person.
I can't remember. That was a really long time ago.
My camera's not agreeing. It's this way. But I feel like it's this way. But the Magic Queers, yes.
I'm
There's conversation and some discussion.
I want to recognize that. So right now we're writing the second half of the series, and we actually had a moment where we struck down like 3 episodes that we were going to write and like we were going to work with, and then we were like, no, this needs to go in a different direction, and so we've rewritten a bunch of stuff. So Melina is currently writing episode 9, and Malix is writing the finale, episode 11. And
so Malix, you're the only one who knows what happens.
And so as a result, I mean, obviously we can't discuss spoilers for the
Right.
future of the series, but these are both episodes that take place in the 7th book of the Harry Potter series. This is incredibly intense episodes that have been being worked on, and they're doing an incredible job sort of synergizing, writing a cohesive story with people that have never met each other and that are working through Google Drive and Zoom meetings to create something that has a continuity.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
This is.
So I have a question born out of what Malik was speaking about. So earlier during tea time, one of our other filmmakers had made a comment that like wizards are surprisingly like conniving and conservative. And so I'd like to pick any of your brains and ask you, what is it do you think about Harry Potter that makes it such that lots of queer people relate to it and can find space in this world?
Malik.
I'm so sorry, Naya. Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Yeah. So, someone made a comment earlier at a previous, this morning saying that wizards are surprisingly conservative. And, there's lots of patriarchal, heteronormative things that happen in Harry Potter. And yet, over the years, we've seen that queer people still really connect with Harry Potter and enjoy it. Maybe not him specifically. What is it, if you can put to words, what is it about Harry Potter that you think makes it such that it's a space that queer people enjoy and feel comfortable with?
Well,
thank you. Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Melina.
I mean, magic is pretty fabulous. We like just the pure pageantry of it. There's something that's like really appealing about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's certainly the like most surface level answer. It's much deeper than that, but I think that there is something to that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know that
it's avant-garde, right? It's this idea that we can control outside of our circumstance, right? And that we can be the makers of our own existence, our own being. And I think the narrative about like wizardry just being very isolated and protected is that the history of Harry Potter represents almost like the system, right? That things need to be the way we said it is. And so you should arrive as such. And so here we have a character that is saying, the system is wrong. It's flawed. And it's flawed because I exist. And not only that I exist, is I know that there are others out there that challenge this preconceived notion of how we should arrive as or who we should be. And I think outside of Lego Harry Potter and the Transgender Witch, the original story, we have characters that have connected with us in ways that, like Tonks, a lot of fan folk have idealized Tonks as a queer person, in the way that Tonks is described. And then we hear about Albus Dumbledore stepping outside the boundaries. So we know we're not the only ones, right? And so I think it's been so beautiful to create this narrative from a perspective of a transgender witch student that challenges everything that everyone has ever thought about Harry Potter previously, and then centers the very queer person and then introduces us to the magical queers.
Yeah. It actually brings me to Louisa, to your work a little bit, because of what you were saying earlier this morning. I don't know if we can go back and revisit that for us a little bit, but you were talking about, we're about to lose Donato. Oh no. Okay, there we go. What you were saying this morning when you were sharing with us that you we're encountering the same kind of institutional resistance in your real life in the art school where you are. Can you revisit that story with us a little bit?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I haven't seen the Harry Potter movies or read the books. I know about it because the spoilers are everywhere, and it's like people are talking about it. So I know just of it, but I lived in a very Catholic conservative house, so magically allowed. But about the transphobia, basic was more about artistic liberty. When I came to the art school that I was in, my idea was to find other ways to think and other ways to what create and how I create. But instead, what happened is a lot of indoctrination, I'd say, of how art should be, what isn't art, and the process of something that you make, how it becomes art. And this idea that something aren't art unless certain people get together and say, okay, it is art, you have the right to speak, and you're like you are approved, so now you can speak. And maybe I had multiple altercations with the same teacher who was self-proclaimed feminist, and her idea and the direction that she wanted me to take was to basically told me was I can't make art for other trans people, and I can't make art that only trans people can relate to, because I'm excluding non-trans people from the conversation, and it's supposedly counterproductive. And which is not true. Like, for example, a conversation it was one of the first one of my first shorts, and the first time I actually put everything that I was feeling by something without thinking, is it gonna be received by the big art people as valid? Sorry. So yeah, it was Well, in a sense, I do identify a lot with Quincy because this idea of I'm coming into this world that I don't know and they don't know me either, but I'm still here to make my voice out as loud as possible and show everybody that like even if I'm normal, quote unquote, I'm still able to go out there and do whatever it is I need to do.
Yes. I'm deeply struck by, I mean, both what you were saying this morning and now your continuation of that story, as if art and voice and expression need to be legitimated by anybody outside right? In order for you to exist, your existence somehow has to be justified and then fit and be seen and on somebody else's terms, somebody else's way, or more precisely, that even they have anything to say about your creation as art or not, and it's the added piece that's painful about that is, you know, here's a person who's a self-declared feminist. That to me is, oh my God. And you know, it harkens back to earlier years for me when I was in grad school and undergrad. But so it's not a new narrative. The point is that we're revisiting narratives that all of you have, and I'll use the same word that Naya and I were using earlier, that many of us, you know, a number of people who were writing in, were that there's a certain courage it takes. And it's, you know, we're not making it sound like it's easy. This isn't easy. This is actually something that you choose to do to engage a world, right? And be loud and be present and do say what the line in Quincy, one of my favorite Quincy lines is, "Hello, transgender." I loved it. I loved it. Like, how do you not know?
That's Donato's
right?
line. Donato ad-libbed that in the studio.
And everybody's like, what? What does that mean? Oh, you don't know what it means.
I'm not at all surprised at all. Not at all. Thank you, Louise, for sharing and for sharing the intimacy of your work. I mean, there's such a contrast between these two sets of works. I sort of, you know, the fabric of the work, we can see how they overlap with each other. Yeah, Naya, like the stories are so similar in so many ways about declaring themselves, yourselves, but they take these different paths.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Like similar. Yeah. At the end, it's, you know, someone wanting to be seen and recognized and appreciated. You wouldn't necessarily pick that up from first watch of both of them because they're completely different style. You know, Louise's film is there's no dialogue or no spoken dialogue, versus Quincy and Transgender Witch is the complete opposite. Where there's lots of spoken dialogue, but they're both, I mean, they're wonderful. Both are wonderful pieces, and I'm excited to see where Lego Harry Potter continues to go.
I also I wanted to add that the piece that is about the two-spirit teenagers on Turtle Island, I felt a lot of resonance there as well
Mhm.
with the idea of the magical queers, just with the, like, I thought that the way that nature is so lovingly filmed in that short, and just the type of conversation that's taking place between the youth in that piece is just like so like it just has this unbelievably natural timbre to it, and they're like the actors playing themselves, and I felt like that was a totally other kind of interpretation of the idea of a magical queers group, and so I think that that was just another connection that I saw.
Yeah, especially since they find their safe place in the Forbidden Forest.
Yeah.
And just to verbally call that out, that was Nish Mani Duwag by Debbie S. Mishibini Jimai. And we also have this trans
Also the
teen
English
called
writer.
Ray, who has fuchsia hair.
No.
Who has fuchsia hair like our Quincy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to give it up to our writers for being able to deliver such tough conversations and narrative in a lighthearted way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, we call this a parody because we have fun and there are jokes being made. But there's nothing funny about the reality of what Quincy experiences and the magical queers. But they deliver it in such a way that helps give people pause to think about the real issues that are at hand. Whether you might be a parent or a student yourself, we can all somehow connect with what Quincy experiences.
Yeah. And I think it gives people pause in a way where they don't feel like they're being called out or attacked.
Yes.
Oh, this is
because often when people feel called out and attacked, they can't listen to the message.
Yeah, they just kind of hide.
They can't hear what we're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's completely true, and it's. I mean, it is the strength of both mediums, right? That you know, in Louise's work, again, nobody is being called out, and in your work with your parody, with your parodic work, there is nobody being called out. It is actually being called in, right? Being called to recognize and to choose to see if you choose to see. But in fact, I'm going to say who I am and I'm going to be. And if you choose to see, that's good. And if you choose not to see, get on with it, right? But don't stay in my way, because here we are and I exist. I mean, this declaration of being that is so complicated, when then we also interject notions of race, notions of class, notions of, and in this case for you as well, nation as separate from where we are. I can't presume to understand what a self-declared feminist is going to talk about, how a self-declared feminist is going to talk about art in France, as opposed to that in America, because those are two different national and regional conversations about intersectionality. Yeah. But the impact of that, and the idea that we could share your experience as a young person who isn't even from France, but from a French holding, and then who goes to France to go to school and experiences something unexpected in that space. That is a complex narrative that resonates in these fascinating, incredible ways with a parody. Like, I'm blown away by this. And then we have some of the other pieces that we watched this evening. Can any of you name or call out any of one of your favorites from? I know you, Logan. You mentioned, you brought up Two Spirited Beings. Is there anybody else who saw anything that made them say this?
So I have to make a call out for Kapai Mahu, because personally for me, this shows representation of Pacifica cultures in ways that are so new for me. Like, I have not been able to see a lot of our Pacifica gender identities spoken out so unapologetically on a stage such as this. And so I want to call out my Mahu siblings, whether you're Kane Mahu or Vahine Mahu or Fafafine or Leiti or Vakasa Leva Leva. Just this week, the president of the Leiti Association in Tonga was found murdered on a beach in Tonga. And the creators of Kapai Mahu also created a beautiful documentary that centered the lives of Leitis called Leitis in Waiting. And this was created several years ago when Joey Mataele was the president of the Leitis Association of Tonga. Since then, they've been calling out a lot of the harm in which Tonga is not embracing Leiti or trans community, and they're attacking them. And so today's president was found dead on a beach in Tonga, murdered. And so there's a lot of work that still needs to happen across Oceania. And us just as Pacifica trying to be visible and vocal and loud here in the United States, there's a lot that's happening back home.
Oh my God.
And it's as basic as acceptance, not just within the home, but in the community as well. So I want to make a verbal call out to that, folks. If you're watching and you've seen Kapai Mahu, please look up Leiti in Waiting and learn about what's going on in Tonga and help amplify the social injustice that's happening there.
I'm not surprised that we didn't know that. I'm not surprised that it is. I'm in pain with you. Too real and too hard and too much. There was also a young girl who was lynched recently, and a young Black girl in queer community because she's queer and because she's Black. And to say that we are all sick of these stories and cannot turn away, must not turn away. Thank you so much for letting us know and sharing with us Leiti in Waiting, and we will look it up. I will watch, and I will do some research, and I will find and follow that story. That is sickening and painful. I mean, it's why we need your stories. It's why we need Harry Potter and the Transgender Witch. It's why we need conversation, right? Because in a conversation is having a conversation with the viewer, and it's with the person who is present and absent, right? Who is present every day, and it's such an incredible concept for the piece. It's the conversations we have. But my God. Do you know anything about Memorial? Do you know anything about?
The story is still being broken. And with media in Tonga, I can assume that a lot is being covered. Even several years ago, where a Fafafine woman who is trans was found hanging in Samoa, and they published this photo on the main country publication and misgendered her. Like, this is the level of reporting of stories of trans people that is happening in the Pacific. And there's an erasure that comes with that.
Yeah.
And so we don't know enough yet. My mom is actually the one who sent me information about the story that was happening. And she lives here now in the United States, but she's so deeply connected with people in Tonga.
Yeah.
I come from a Samoan and Tongan heritage. And so my mom sharing that to me, despite a lot of the connections we've been trying to build with community out in the Pacific Islands, the Lake D Association especially, was just heart-wrenching. And she just shared this with me yesterday.
Wow.
So we don't know enough yet, but trust and believe we're going to amplify those voices, and we're going to make a call to action in the same ways that when they reported on the trans youth death in Samoa and publicly shamed her and misgendered her in the newspapers and posted that picture of her hanging on the national newspaper was wrong. And so we will amplify those voices. We will make a call to action. But these are the realities of the stories of trans people who are still trying to fight for a voice in countries in which they're silenced.
Absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It is the deepest reason why we do the work we do. It is why Translations Film Festival has existed for 16 years. And understand it is one of only 10 in the world. There are so many film festivals of all different kinds, but there are only 10 trans film festivals. The work you do is vital. It literally saves lives. Literally saves lives. So I can't thank you enough for persevering and continuing and growing, for Logan, for bringing people together, use work that is parodic, that resists, that is revolutionary in ways that might be funny and interesting and accessible to a broader audience, but does the work of saving lives as well, right? Because you're able to have people reintroduce themselves to work with which they in which they found safety, and knowing that Rowlands is not worthy of the work that she actually created is fascinating. It's not the first or second time any artist, right, has created work that will live on for communities beyond them, right? I mean, Shakespeare was a misogynist. Hello. But it is incredibly powerful work that you're doing to allowing people access back to this work that, as Naya was saying, is so important to so many queer people, and that we read differently. We read against the grain. We're looking at this whole world like, girl, how you don't know that was already a trans, that's already a trans character. Hello. Harry Potter is queer AF. Thank you. That is our story. I'm not gonna give away any little pieces, but I'm just gonna throw out some little sparks to let you guys know. By the way, there are certain unexpected, let's say, queer relationships that we've been wanting to see on screen that might have happened. And thank you, writers. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Melina. Kapea Mahu, thank you for bringing that one up. It is an Oscar-nominated film. I've just been informed that Let's See in Waiting actually won Best Doc at the Seattle Queer Film Festival in 2018. We talked a little bit about Two-Spirited Beings, and you pronounced it correctly. I don't want to mispronounce the name of the film, so I'll only say it in English, Two-Spirited Beings. You also called out Satan's Tears, an incredible film that we just watched. One of the ones that I wanted to call attention to was All Black Lives Matter, which is also a local film um, by Grimm is her last name.
Gabrielle
Um,
Grimm.
Gabrielle Grimm. Thank you, Naya. Naya, what did you think of that film? Any one of you have seen it? What did you think of that film?
Yes, that one. Oh my gosh, I really really enjoyed it because I felt like it touched on a lot. Like it showed you that like there's still really a lot of work to be done, even within these minority groups, and it's the issue that we saw with like first wave feminism, right? Where it's like, oh, we're going to worry about the white women first and then worry about the other women later, right? With Black Lives Matter, there's a bit of that happening too, where it's like some people are only focusing on the Black lives of the straight, patriarchal, the regular Black people, but we can't do that anymore. We have to really look at the disabled Black people, the queer Black people, the deaf Black, we have to look at all Black people. We can't just pick and choose what we want anymore. But it had this serious element to it of like, hey, pay attention. All Black lives really do matter. But also, I just almost had like shivers watching it when they were, rallying and doing the what do you call it? The call in response.
Yes.
Just showing, that energy that we had that just built almost so quickly in late May and June 2020, and it was almost kind of fun to like relive that, even though I remember how I felt during that time and I was like a wreck. But it was really cool to see that represented in film.
Yeah, it was a brilliant short piece, and it's really hard to make documentaries about or a kind of record about protest and revolution in its moment. It's really hard to make it interesting, and they actually, I mean, cut and edited it together so well, and it was so reminiscent of the now and the then pulled together, right? And it's a local film. It's so in some sense there's also we are there with them. They drew us in, and not for nothing, but those performances were also great. And they had the same kinds of conversations we're having right now, a calling in to community and to being with each other. I wanted before we go, I'm doing this because I want to have a small Harry Potter geek out moment. Do you mind? Melina's like, oh, Naya's like, yes, please. Naya, pick your question, girl. Go for it. You got a bunch going through there. You're like, ooh, any question I want? Any question I want? Yes. Hearts and shivers.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay. So, I don't know. This is like almost like deep Harry Potter, right? But I'm gonna go for it. So in the Harry Potter narratives, Dolores Umbridge is punished for her hate of the children, right? Where she's like dragged away by the centaurs. In reality,
you went there.
In reality, is this a punishment or is this a way of addressing Rowling's betrayal of a large set of her audience, queer or trans?
Woo! Whoa! What? Just saying.
Just a little context to add to this question, just for anybody that hasn't seen the episode featuring Umbridge in Transgender Witch, we took the writer of that episode, whose name is Jenny Murphy, took direct quotation from J.K. Rowling's essay and put it into the mouth of Umbridge. And Umbridge is played by Caitlin Macy Beckwith, the local actor. And Umbridge directly takes Quincy into detention to punish her for her identity. and Quincy fights back, and there was a duel between Umbridge and Quincy in Umbridge's office. And at the end of the episode, when Harry Potter is being led out into the forest, is leading Umbridge out into the forest, and then gets in trouble, Quincy, unbeknownst to Harry and Hermione, sends her friend Grop to save Harry Potter and Hermione in the final moment of that episode. So that's just a little bit of the story of what's going on there. But yes, and then anybody can take that question as far as the analysis of Umbridge's actions and what happens to her. But yeah.
But it's not accidental that those are J.K. Rowling's words that she's speaking.
That is correct.
So do we get to interpret that as a punishment of a symbolic comeuppance for the idea that not a direct attack, wishing Rowling's absolutely no personal harm, absolutely not, but a kind of metaphoric dynamic where within the text comes back to bite her in the proverbial dookie.
Well, one thing I wanted to say about that is that we made a decision very early on in our process that we were not going to majorly disrupt the canonical events of the books. Obviously, we have taken some liberties, but the fate of the characters has already been decided by J.K. Rowling, and I think that though Umbridge does get sort of taken away at that moment, saving Harry and Hermione from the danger, and saving the school from the danger that she presents to the students that she is torturing, doing physical torture to, and emotional torture. She does get saved later. She does not die in this event. And then she rises to more power after that, in the Ministry of Magic. And so I think it's interesting because what you're talking about, the idea of characters being punished, that's something that we've had many, many debates about on this series. And what even is and that's something that's also in the eye of the beholder. So I don't even know if I have an interpretation other than to say that we wanted to be true to the events of the series, but also just see it from a slightly different perspective. And that Quincy's relationship with Umbridge is charged and has a danger in it that is different and more intense than the danger that's presented to Harry Potter. And anyway, Donato, I think you had something to add to that, but yeah.
No, I just wanted to laugh because Cooper, that was a question for tea time. That's when we're spilling the tea. Love.
I love Alana. Alana, one of our team members, just said.
I want to call out to Melina and Malix. What is some unique perspective you've gained in writing for this series? As the story is unfolding.
You want to go, Melina?
Okay. I think just not even as the story was unfolding, but I think initially when we all came together and were coming at this from such different relationships with the initial text and such different relationships with what we wanted the plot to be, I think it was just very interesting to see how many different trans perspectives there are. You know, we're not a monolith at all. And I think there's people, you know, as Logan mentioned, there's been a lot of work in the digital writer's room to figure out how much punishment we want and what we want the tone of that to be. And I think the whole range of opinions on that is represented amongst the writers. And that was very interesting to see.
Yeah, I definitely think that I think it's tough when you're writing a show like this, where like it's obviously commenting on something. And I don't know, I personally feel like J.K. Rowling managed to upset a lot of people in a lot of different ways. and I think a lot of us brought our unique frustrations, maybe, to like you know, and I think she went on she went on a lot of different ways about a lot of different things, and I don't know. I also think that one of the things that I really struggled with or like was a challenge was to sort of like we definitely kind of created a world where there's a lot of different trans stories, and different people experiencing different sort of like having different queer experiences, and it's tough to like Melina was saying, to like funnel such a like complex community and so many different identities, and really try to like give. I think we kind of ran into a challenge early on where we tried to give like Quincy like as many of our own like unique trans experiences as we could, and I still think we were doing that, but like it was something that almost made like I think Quincy like the every trans person, and I'm personally really glad that we like Donato came on board and really like captured the character and sort of like gave her this like grounding that let us all sort of like funnel a more channeled story through it. And especially also just the conversations of like who else is trans, and like, or even if they're not necessarily out, like how are we telling, you know, aspects of stories like regardless of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't want to give any spoilers to what's coming up, but there were massive months-long debates about the character, about a certain headmaster and his backstory. And there's an episode, like that's the next episode that we're working on as well. And I cannot even tell you how many like back and forths we had about the morality of this character, about like how he treats young people. Like it is so many different things came up, and that's just been the joy of this project, those debates. Yeah.
I'm sipping the tea, y'all. Sipping that tea.
Alex, if you had the secret to being the everybody trans person, let me know.
I do not.
Let me know. I'm still working on that.
Oh my. All right, y'all. I'm calling time. We could go on forever. Thank you for your amazing, beautiful, compelling, wonderful work. Miss Naya, thank you for being my amazing co-host. Wrong way. To my left, which is my right. Everything's in reverse. Zoom. To everyone in the audience, all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Donato, Louise, Logan, Naya, Malix, Melina, Mocha, and behind the scenes, doing all the things, all the technical magic. Love you, thank you. Oh,
Quincy, Lego Quincy.
Yay! And lovely cameo by Quincy. Thank you. Everyone, enjoy your evenings. Settle in for our next wonderful set rest of the festival. And please remember that when you are watching and you purchase anything, let's say tonight, you have 72 hours within which to finish watching. So even if the festival has officially ended, it's not officially over until you stop watching. So keep going, enjoy. Thank you to all our sponsors. Langston, Seattle Black Film Festivals, Black Cinema Collective, Puget Sound Soundworks, Pickford Film Festival, and of course, Utopia, Washington. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.
Ciao, Bella.
Bye.